Hey everybody, Billy Bob here, and welcome to today's show. Today is named Now That's Something to Be Proud of. And today I'm going to talk about three specific events, not in order of importance because there is no level of importance. They are all important in American history. Okay? One no more important than the other in my eyes. Maybe there are, but they're not listed that way. Okay, so here we go. That's something to be proud of. That's also a title of a song by Montgomery Gentry. In the beginning, or the chorus, I should say, goes like this. That's something to be proud of, a life you can hang your hat on. There's a chin held high as tears fall down, a gut sucked in, a chest stuck out, a small town flag a flying. And there were flags flying, I'm sure, in every small town, in every large town, all around the United States of America when these things were going on. Okay? First of all, the first thing that we as Americans should be proud of is the Artemis II. The launch, the landing, the perfection that went on this mission to go to the backside or the dark side of the moon and back, flown further than any man has ever flown before. Man, woman, okay? But I don't know, what was it, 600 and some thousand miles, something crazy. The Artemis crew, Reed Wiseman, the commander, Victor Glover, the pilot, Christina Cook, the mission specialist, and Jeremy Hansen, another mission specialist, performed flawless. There was only one small issue with the toilet. I guess they got that resolved. But man, when you talk about you're re-entering the Earth's orbit at 25,000 miles an hour, the heat shields, the tiles, sustaining 5,000 degree heat, and you have to hit it just right to come in and come down. The parachutes come out, they land in the Pacific Ocean, the crews are right there. It was all live for us to see on many stations. We watched it on Prime. But there's other people, not only everybody in NASA. How proud could they be? I mean, Americans were super proud, but even more so, each and every person from NASA and their subsidiaries, all the people, their vendors, the people that coordinated with this and built the pieces and parts. I mean, this was a massive undertaking. And some of the key management, Matthew Ramsey, the Artemis II mission manager, he oversaw the mission preparedness, the deputy mission management team. Charlie Blackwell Thompson, the Artemis launch director, he led the launch control at Kennedy Space Center. Again, flawless launch and landing. The Expeditionary Strike Group 3, commanded by Neil Kruger and Jessica O'Brien, Captain Neil Kruger, and Captain Jessica O'Brien. They managed the recovery of the crew and capsule from the USS John P. Murtha out in the Pacific. The Murtha is a 10th San Antonio class amphibious transport dock ship. So you saw it. This wasn't like some big ship. This was an amphibious, like a Zydeco type ship. And then you had Jared Isaacman. And Jared is the 15th different NASA administrator. He commanded the Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian space flight using SpaceX Dragon Resilience. That was launched from Kennedy Space Center September 16th, 2021. He later led the Polaris Dawn, during which he became the first private citizen to perform a spacewalk. So congratulations again to each and every person, the crew, the command, every support person at NASA, a job well done. Number two, and now that's something to be proud of, Old Dominion University Most of you know. If you don't, there was a shooting there. It was at the ROTC building, not only in the building, but in the classroom, right? This was supposed to be just any other day. It was a Saturday, and they were setting up a presentation. Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, the Old Dominion professor of military sciences, he was briefing the class on their roles, their coordination, their training. Now, Brandon Shaw, Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, 42 years old, served in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2 Bronze Stars, Apache pilot, many, many other honors. But here's a guy that definitely prepared his class for what would be to come on that day, and probably as they go through life, whether they go into battle or not. So, they're having their presentation, normal training. The training concludes. Somebody walks into the room. Some guy, he's kind of a nervous guy. Nobody knows him. And Cadet Samuel Reinberg recalls the guy saying, "Is this the ROTC classroom or a seminar?" So everybody stopped for a moment, they thought, and they said, "Yes." And then all of a sudden the guy shouts out, "Allah Akbar, Allah is great." He pulled a .44 Glock out of his waistband. He started shooting. At 10:43, he fired his gun in the direction of Shaw. Shaw fought back. He didn't cower. He fought back. And then Cadet O'Shea Bago, all this, you can watch the film. I'm just going to give you some of the highlights here. It's long. It's amazing. So they thought, some of them thought that this was a drill. This was something that was staged. Obviously, it wasn't. Some huddled under their desks. Some began, to shield themselves from the bullets. Some began to drop. But then, as Brandon Shaw, Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, charged and attempted to subdue the shooter, Cadet Louis Anchetta, seeing the professor risking his life, decided, "I got to jump in." He opened his knife. He ran towards the shooter. He gets shot. Shaw turns the shooter away from Anchetta. The cadet Anchetta takes his knife and he starts thrusting it into the shooter. Others jump in. The bottom line is they ended the threat. Okay, they ended the threat. That's how the police talked about it. The threat was subdued. The threat was ended by the cadets, punching him, stabbing him, until it was no longer a threat. Now, Brandon Shaw and Anchetta both taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw succumbed to his injuries. But what's to be proud of here? The proud of these young men and women that fought back. They fought back not only for themselves, but their leader, Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw. That's something to be proud of. Lastly, the fighter pilots, the pilot and the weapons officer, by the way, the only U.S. fighter jet to be shot down to date in the Iranian conflict. Okay, Epic Fury. So these two guys were shot down in a mountainous region in Iran, the Kohigla and Boyer Ahmad province, and very mountainous, very treacherous. These guys flying an F-15E Strike Eagle. They're hit, they go down. The pilot, he was recovered shortly after the crash, after he ejected. The fighter plane crashed. Both the pilot and the weapons officer ejected. But the weapons officer wasn't found. But yet, injured, he fought his way to safety safety first before rescuing. What I mean by safety, he had only a pistol, no other weapons. But he climbed his way up a 7,000-foot mountain to the peak, near the peak, and found a crevice in the mountain that he could hide in, to hide from the enemy, because they wanted him. They wanted him to make an example of him, okay? So he got into the crevice. He engaged his emergency beacon. The United States detected that. Our intelligence community detected that. The CIA, they staged a whole diversion tactic. So they bring in the military. They spread the word in Iran that he had already been rescued, and the hopes that they would stop looking for him, right? So from there, they used what they call a nighttime exfiltration, which included, this is the rescue, they call it a nighttime exfiltration. They used hundreds of special ops and 155 aircraft, okay? This is big, folks. This ain't no fooling around here. 155 aircraft. It took a number of minutes just to find him, to get him. Navy SEAL Team 6, one of the badass groups. You know, we know the Rangers, but SEAL Team 6, those are some badass dudes, I'm going to tell you. They find him, they get him into a helicopter, and the comment was, we really wanted to get our guy out of there, and we did. And they got him to safety. That's something to be proud of. I know this was a little long, but take the time to go back, watch this whole video, watch the different things on social media and on your news media that relate to these three topics. Not only is America something to be proud of, but America, land of the free because of the brave. Stay focused, America. Billy Bob, peace out.